Okay. All right. Well, you mentioned four different things, and I want to first dig into these a little bit and then ask some questions around them. So the first one is if you have one or two SKUs, you're saying it's not a good idea to go to Walmart. Is that because the SKUs may be niche and therefore may not get much traction, or is it because you want to launch different SKUs on Amazon and Walmart?
So reason being is that Walmart has obviously much lower revenue than Amazon.com. Walmart.com has lower revenue than Amazon.com. With limited amount of SKUs, it's hard to bring in enough revenue where it's worth the efforts that you're putting in, right? So if you have, because Amazon's like all about if you're able to get products ranked, then you're able to make in some categories like unlimited amounts of sales. With Walmart, it's not necessarily the case, and if just because you have a product and you get it ranked, it might not bring in significant enough revenue. So, but if you have a larger assortment of products throughout those products, then there's enough revenue where it makes the effort more worthwhile. And the effort could be your internal. We think about like the cost of operating, right? Like what's the cost that it's going to cost you internally versus your time, if it's just you, if it's your team, or it's using a provider, like what's that going to cost and how's the value against that? So that's a big thing that we try to keep in mind. I think when you're thinking about Walmart, there's two components to it, right? There's the opportunity that it's the fastest growing marketplace. You get your products ranked now and you grow with the marketplace. So you always want to keep that in mind, because even if you're not making the most exciting amount of sales now, you're growing with the marketplace. But at the same time, you still want to make sure you're operating your business especially if you're writing on tighter margins and you don't have a lot of capital, you want to make sure you're operating it efficiently and in a smart manner. So even though there is opportunity and you want to get ranked really high and you want to grow with the marketplace, you don't want to bleed money as you're doing it because it doesn't become sustainable. So we try to like finding that balance where like you could be profitable on the interaction, but don't evaluate just based on the amount of sales you're making with Walmart. Think about also the growth that you're growing with Walmart every month. You're securing that high rank. So that's been a big part of how we evaluate.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is it's not necessarily just one or two SKUs. You don't want to be building a business on Amazon, on Walmart, unlike Amazon, just selling a limited number of SKUs because the volume is much, much smaller. So that's why you want to be able to spread your revenue base. Okay, I understand. So that means that because usually when I work with Amazon sellers, I always tell them, look, do not go launching 10 different SKUs because each one is going to take its time to get indexed and blah blah. So does that mean that on Walmart you actually want to launch many SKUs at the same time?
Yeah, so that's what's really interesting is usually for most categories, like most people aren't launching products specifically for Walmart. So usually they already have an established catalog from another marketplace. So usually sometimes we'll do it in batches if it's a really large catalog, but most of the time we'll be able to launch most of their products at the same time because they're as long as you're following the right strategies and tactics, you could get products ranked really efficiently to the top of search results at very low cost. So you don't need you just focus on one product and invest the money in one product. You could have pretty substantial efforts across all of them. So yeah, like if you have 12 products, we suggest launching all 12 products from the start.
Okay. And the next thing you mentioned is $20,000 a month has to be your minimum. So that's like $250,000 in a year. If you're
Yep.
not doing $250,000 in a year, you're not ready yet. So keep building. And then, of course, keep building does not mean just push the revenue up on each item if you have only one or two. Add more items before you go to Walmart. The third one is if you are in a niche category, those are called micro categories. In fact, for those listening, there is an episode with his name is Alan. I forget his last name, but it's all about micro categories. Look it up. If you are in those, this is not going to be a good fit. And the last one is my interest. It's where my interest is the most. You said if you have enough inventory, I will add one more thing to that and tell me what you think. You may have enough inventory, but if you're not able to have an inventory management system that tracks your inventory in multiple locations, this also will be an issue, right? Because it's another location where you will track how many pieces left, how many pieces selling, and things like that, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, you're gonna wanna make sure you're tracking that and keeping account for that because you don't wanna run out of stock. But on Walmart, it's not as bad to run out of stock as Amazon, but it's still, you have to build back up when you run out of stock and, you know, you lose
Yeah.
some of your drinking juice.